What would you do if someone told you that you would never walk again, never run again, never live a normal life again? Would you give up? Would you accept it? Now imagine this. Instead of giving up, you strap yourself into a sled, you grip your poles, and you launch yourself down a frozen mountain at 70 miles per hour. No legs, no fear, no limits. This is the story of the Paralympic Winter Games, where the most extraordinary athletes on Earth prove that the human spirit is completely and utterly unbreakable. Every 4 years, the world turns its eyes to the Olympic Winter Games. We celebrate speed, strength, and skill on ice and snow. But there is another event, one that happens right after, that many people still do not know enough about. It is called the Paralympic Winter Games. And honestly, it might be even more inspiring than the Olympics themselves. The Paralympic Winter Games bring together hundreds of athletes from around the world. Athletes with physical disabilities, visual impairments, and limb differences who compete at the highest level in some of the most demanding winter sports ever created. These are not exhibition events. These are not charity competitions. These are elite, world-class athletes who train for years, who push their bodies to the absolute edge, and who compete with a fire and a determination that will leave you speechless. The word Paralympic comes from the Greek word para, meaning beside or alongside. The Paralympic Games exist alongside the Olympic Games, not beneath them, not as a lesser version, but as an equal celebration of what the human body and mind can achieve. And when you learn the full story of how these games began, how they grew, and the athletes who made them legendary, you will never look at sport or disability the same way again. The story of the Paralympic Winter Games begins in a small town in Sweden called Örnsköldsvik. In 1976, just 2 weeks after the Winter Olympics were held in Innsbruck, Austria, this quiet Swedish town hosted the very first Paralympic Winter Games. It was a modest beginning. Only 53 athletes from 16 countries participated. The sports were limited to alpine skiing and cross-country skiing, and the world barely noticed it happen. But something important had started. A door had been opened. The idea behind the Paralympic movement actually goes back even further, to a man named Sir Ludwig Guttmann, a German-born British neurologist who worked with World War II veterans who had suffered spinal cord injuries. In 1948, Guttmann organized a small sports competition for wheelchair-bound veterans at Stoke Mandeville Hospital in England. He believed that sport was not just recreation for disabled people. He believed it was medicine, it was rehabilitation, it was dignity. That small competition eventually grew into the Paralympic Games as we know them today. After that first Winter Paralympics in Sweden, the event grew steadily. The 1980 Games were held in Geilo, Norway, with more athletes and more sports. By 1988, the Winter Paralympics were held in Innsbruck, and the movement was gaining real momentum. But the true turning point came in 1992, when the Winter Paralympics were held in Tignes, in Albertville, France, in the same city and the same venues as the Winter Olympics. This was a landmark moment. For the first time, Paralympic athletes were being treated as equals, competing on the same stages, in the same arenas, in front of the same crowds. From that point on, the Paralympic Winter Games continued to grow. More countries joined, more sports were added, more athletes arrived. By the 2014 Games in Sochi, Russia, over 500 athletes from 45 countries competed. The event had gone from a small gathering in a Swedish town to a global spectacle watched by millions. And every 4 years, it continues to get bigger, louder, and more powerful. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Paralympic Winter Games is the incredible technology and adaptive equipment that allows athletes to compete. These innovations are nothing short of engineering marvels, designed to bridge the gap between disability and elite athletic performance. For athletes who have lost legs or who have lower limb impairments, one of the most important inventions is the sit ski, also known as a monoski. This device allows a skier to sit in a molded seat mounted on a single ski. The athlete uses short outrigger poles with small ski tips on the end to steer, balance, and control their speed as they race down the mountain. Watching a sit skier navigate a downhill course at extreme speeds is one of the most thrilling sights in all of sport. For athletes with visual impairments, including those who are completely blind, guide skiers are used. A sighted guide skis just ahead of the visually impaired athlete, giving verbal instructions through a headset, calling out turns, terrain changes, and obstacles. The level of trust between an athlete and their guide is extraordinary. Imagine skiing down a mountain at 50 or 60 miles per hour and not being able to see a single thing in front of you. Your entire life depends on the voice in your ear. In para-snowboarding, athletes use specially designed prosthetic limbs, adaptive bindings, and modified boards to carve through courses. In para-ice hockey, formerly known as sled hockey, players sit in small sleds that rest on two blades and use two short sticks, one end for pushing across the ice and the other end for striking the puck. It is fast, physical, and incredibly intense. And in wheelchair curling, athletes deliver stones from specially designed wheelchairs, often using extender poles to push the stone down the ice with remarkable precision. Every one of these adaptations represents years of engineering, testing, and collaboration between athletes, coaches, and designers. The technology does not replace ability, it unlocks it. The Paralympic Winter Games currently feature 6 sports, and each one is spectacular in its own way. Para-alpine skiing is perhaps the most visually dramatic. Athletes race down steep mountain courses in events including downhill, super G, giant slalom, and super combined. They are classified into categories based on whether they ski standing, sitting, or with a visual impairment. The speeds are breathtaking, and the skill required is immense. Para-snowboard made its debut at the 2014 Sochi Games and quickly became a fan favorite. Athletes compete in snowboard cross and banked slalom events, racing through courses filled with jumps, berms, and rollers. It is loud, exciting, and unpredictable. Para cross-country skiing is a test of pure endurance. Athletes race over long distances on flat and hilly terrain, using either classical or free technique. Like alpine skiing, competitors are divided into standing, sitting, and visually impaired categories. The physical demands are enormous, and races are often decided by fractions of a second. Para-biathlon combines cross-country skiing with rifle shooting, one of the most unique and challenging combinations in sport. Visually impaired athletes use electronic rifles equipped with acoustic signals. The pitch of the sound changes as the athlete aims closer to the center of the target. When the pitch reaches its highest note, they fire. It is an extraordinary test of calm, focus, and precision under extreme physical fatigue. Para-ice hockey is widely considered the most exciting team sport in the Winter Paralympics. 2 teams of 6 players battle on the ice in fast, hard-hitting games that rival anything you would see in the NHL. The athletes sit in sleds and move at remarkable speeds, delivering crushing checks and firing powerful shots. The atmosphere in the arena is electric. Finally, wheelchair curling is a sport of strategy, precision, and patience. Mixed-gender teams of 5 players compete, delivering stones from their wheelchairs without the sweeping that is seen in traditional curling. It is a quiet, cerebral sport, but the tension in a close match is almost unbearable. Behind every medal at the Paralympic Winter Games, there is a story that could fill an entire movie. Take the story of Henrietta Farkashova from Slovakia, one of the most decorated para-alpine skiers in history. Farkashova, who is visually impaired, has won multiple Paralympic gold medals racing down mountains she cannot see, guided only by the voice of her guide skier Natalia Shubertova. Together, they move as one, a partnership built on absolute trust and years of shared sacrifice. Their bond is one of the most beautiful things in sport. Then there is Josh Sweeney from the United States. Sweeney was a United States Marine who lost both of his legs in an improvised explosive device attack in Afghanistan. Just a few years later, he scored the only goal in the gold medal game at the 2014 Sochi Paralympics, leading Team USA to victory in sled hockey. When he scored that goal, he did not just win a game. He showed the entire world what resilience looks like. And consider the story of Momoka Muraoka from Japan. Born with spinal damage that left her in a wheelchair, Muraoka became one of the greatest sit skiers of her generation. At the 2018 Pyeongchang Games, she won 5 medals, becoming a national hero and inspiring millions of young people in Japan and beyond to believe that disability is not the end of a dream. It is the beginning of a different one. These athletes are not asking for sympathy. They are demanding respect. And they have earned every ounce of it. Like any major global event, the Paralympic Winter Games have not been immune to politics and controversy. One of the most significant issues in recent history involved Russia. Following the invasion of Ukraine in 2022, the International Paralympic Committee banned Russian and Belarusian athletes from competing in the Beijing Winter Paralympics. The decision came just one day before the opening ceremony and sparked intense debate. Some argued it was a necessary stand against aggression. Others said athletes should not be punished for the actions of their governments. It was a painful moment that highlighted how sport and politics are often impossible to separate. There have also been ongoing debates about classification systems, the method by which athletes are grouped based on the nature and extent of their impairments. Some critics argue that the system is imperfect, that certain classifications give some athletes advantages over others. The International Paralympic Committee continues to refine these systems, but it remains one of the most complex challenges in disability sport. Despite these issues, the Paralympic movement has always found a way to move forward, guided by its core values of courage, determination, inspiration, and equality. Right now, the world is watching the 2026 Paralympic Winter Games, held in Milano, Cortina, Italy. This is a historic event. It marks the first time Italy has hosted the Winter Paralympics since the Torino Games in 2006, and the anticipation has been immense. Approximately 700 athletes from around 50 countries are competing across all 6 Paralympic winter sports. The venues are spread across the stunning landscapes of Milan, Cortina d'Ampezzo, and surrounding areas in the Italian Alps and Lombardy region. The infrastructure is world-class, the scenery is breathtaking, and the atmosphere is charged with emotion and celebration. These games carry a special significance. They are the first Winter Paralympics to take place in a post-pandemic world where the full power of live audiences has returned. The stadiums are full, the crowds are loud, and the athletes are feeling the energy. Milano Cortina 2026 is not just a sporting event, it is a statement to the world that the Paralympic movement is stronger, bigger, and more important than ever before. The Paralympic Winter Games do something that very few events in the world can do. They change the way people think. For decades, people with disabilities were often viewed through a lens of pity, limitation, and exclusion. The Paralympics shatter that lens completely. When you watch a blind athlete ski down a mountain, when you watch a double amputee score a goal in ice hockey, when you watch a wheelchair athlete deliver a perfect curling stone under enormous pressure, something shifts inside you. You stop seeing disability. You start seeing ability. You stop seeing what is missing. You start seeing what is possible. Studies have shown that the Paralympic Games have a measurable impact on public attitudes toward disability. After hosting the Games, countries report increased awareness, improved accessibility in public spaces, and greater inclusion of disabled people in education, employment, and community life. The Games do not just inspire individuals, they change systems, they change cultures, they change laws, and for the millions of people around the world who live with disabilities, the Paralympics send a powerful message. You are not alone. You are not less. You are capable of greatness. So the next time someone tells you that something is impossible, remember the athletes of the Paralympic Winter Games. Remember the skier who cannot see the mountain but races down it anyway. Remember the soldier who lost his legs but won a gold medal. Remember the child who was told she would never walk but grew up to become one of the fastest sit skiers on the planet. These athletes do not compete in spite of their disabilities. They compete with them. They have taken the hardest moments of their lives and turned them into fuel. They have taken pain and transformed it into purpose. They have proven again and again that the human spirit does not break. It bends, it adapts, and it rises. The Paralympic Winter Games are not just about sport. They are about the deepest truth of what it means to be human. That our strength is not measured by the body we are given, but by the will we carry inside us. That greatness is not about perfection, it is about perseverance. And that the only real limit in this life is the one we place on ourselves. If these athletes can face a frozen mountain and choose to fly, then what is stopping you? Thank you for watching. If this story inspired you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it today.